This is a massive opportunity for the country, and if we are just being average and we're just being incremental and we're already a bit behind the pace, we're going to get left behind. And this is a massive opportunity for New Zealand to get ahead.
To start, what's your view on AI? Like, where do you see it going, and where do you see New Zealand adopting AI in the next 5 years?
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the 5 things that will make New Zealand a much wealthier country, when you look at other small advanced economies and ask why are they wealthier than us, is the adoption of technology. So in that bucket or in that context, AI is a massive revolution that's taking place. We're going to see more change in the next decade than we've seen probably in the last century. And that's a huge dislocation, and that represents just a massive opportunity for New Zealand, because it's a chance for us to embrace it, to use it, and to outcompete other countries. There's 195 countries in the world. They've all got the same opportunity, and there's all going to be similarly dislocated with this technological revolution. And the question is, we want to get on board and actually make the most of it.
One thing that I kind of came through from everyone I've talked to is the way that AI is not seen so much as a workforce replacement tool, but as an enhancement tool. Is that how do you see that relating to New Zealand's public service and also the private sector?
Yeah, look, when you go back through history, and I've read a lot about the future of work, and I've started thinking about AI and technological revolution for the last 15 years or so. It's interesting. I read some of the accounts back in what was called the second industrial revolution, where you had people moving from ploughs and paddocks out to tractors, and this was the end of farm working as we knew it, and it was going to be terrible and all those kinds of things. In my last year at Air New Zealand as a CEO, we had a whole bunch of AI jobs being created that in a 12-month period hadn't previously existed. So there's new opportunities as this technology comes through. Now, the reality is most technology disruptions we've had in the past have affected 1 or 2 jobs or sectors quite deeply. This is actually going to have an impact on all sectors and all parts of the economy for sure. And so the challenge is, as a country, how do we now embrace it and actually see an opportunity for New Zealand to get wealthier and to be more prosperous off the back of it? So it will impact all jobs, not completely 100%, but pieces of all jobs is kind of what will be happening. And so that's why I encourage people to embrace it, not to be fearful of it. And understandably, there will be some anxiety about it, but there is also going to be a whole bunch of new jobs created off the back of it.
Actually on that, one thing that also came through was the importance of bringing the workforce with AI. I talked to Sabrina Roach about that, and I don't think that's been completely ironed out in terms of the public service yet. What is your view on that? How do you bring the workforce with
I think there are 2 things. Our large corporates are embracing more AI, but like what I see around the world. And just being average is actually meaning that you're falling behind in technology. And so we need to be on the front foot, and we need to be much more embracing of technology and the application of it into our society, into our economy. So I think there's 2 challenges at the moment in New Zealand. Well, actually 3 really. One is, I think we've got an attitude problem, which is actually we need to see it as an opportunity rather than a challenge. And there's a huge opportunity for New Zealand in a massive area of dislocation to outcompete and to jump essentially through the adoption of technology. Secondly, our small medium enterprises in particular, when I go around the Business Association, the Chamber events, many of them, as we can see in survey results as well, are not really embracing tools like we see other small medium enterprises around the world. And the third thing I'd say is the government's well behind in terms of its adoption of AI and other technologies as well, whether it be robotic processing of invoices and payables and receivables and all those kinds of things that have been well used for 20 years or so in other parts of the economy. So we've got a really big job to do, and I think actually as a government, that's one of the major aspects of the public service reforms that we want to introduce in the second term, is to actually streamline our government, make it much more efficient, but most importantly, make it much more effective so it can better serve the people of New Zealand through the adoption of technology. When I look at Denmark, when I look at Estonia, when I look at the UAE, when I look at Singapore, and even the New South Wales state government, those are governments that have adopted it much more than us by a long shot. And the opportunities are massive. If you just think about our healthcare system, we put huge amounts of money in. 1 out of every $5. We've got huge amounts of extra people going into the system. We're clear about the targets, but we've got a massive bureaucracy. You think about how it can help clinicians. You think about medicine in particular and what AI is mastering there. And as you get to artificial general intelligence, where you think this AI could be at the cognitive ability of a human in the next few years, the mastery of law, the mastery of medicine will be two big areas that will have a huge opportunity and impact, so that we can deliver better service to people. So there's a lot of exciting things. Why can't a mum, as I keep saying, who's got an 11 and a 9-year-old, actually work out her working for family tax credits and work out how she may get support for eyeglasses for her daughter, rather than trying to get around the Ministry of Health website and the IRD website and the Ministry of Education websites? Why isn't that just a natural language inquiry? Why, when you want to get proof of identification, does it take such a long time as you need to get one for a mortgage, say, or you need to have proof of income? Those are things that should be, that technology can enable us to do much better and to do much faster, and therefore to serve the public in a much better way, in a more responsive way. Resource consenting, why does it take so long? We don't use any of our tools. A lot of it is just paperwork shuffled. That's how things used to work in 1995, but in many parts of the world, all of that's been digitised in government. And that's why I say we've got a massive opportunity to leapfrog if we get our attitude right and we actually determine to embrace it.
One thing that I've sort of noticed throughout this is the way it's shifted quite dramatically from DIA, the sort of AI digitisation of the public service, shifted from DIA to public service. You've got Paul Goldsmith as the new minister. Are you happy with where things are at now?
I'm constructively dissatisfied and I want to go faster. And so that's why I've brought in outside help, and Simon Mutter and Adrian Littlewood and others, to actually give thought as to how we would do the government digital lead around all of this. We've moved that out of DIA into the Public Service Commission. That's the right place for it to be. But it's actually getting the right capability, the right people involved that actually can see the potential of how we protect the machinery of government, but we also deliver much better service to people. And again, the private sector is well ahead of the New Zealand government in this around the world. There are many governments that are doing an exceptional job and actually are ahead of the private sector in some countries. And so there's just so much opportunity for us to do it differently.
Is there any way to put sort of timelines and KPIs on the adoption of AI in the public service, or just because you know what, the public service can be quite slow? Is it possible?
Absolutely. I mean, we will, as part of the public service reforms, our vision and our goal, as I said, is more efficiency, much more effectiveness and better service, and most importantly, building an organisation where a large number of people work, that you want the best and the brightest in the country wanting to come and work here, because it's an exciting place, working on big challenges, big opportunities, and leveraging technology in a way that delivers better service. So that's the vision. All I'm saying is that yes, we've taken the GDDA, as we call it, out of the DIA, we've put it into the Public Service Commission, and now I have work underway already just on, where I've brought some outsiders in to also give a provocation about how we could organise better. There's a lot more for us to do. So I'm very excited actually that we need to transform the public service and transform our use of technology in government. Why? So that we can deliver better service to the New Zealand people.
Regulation has also been a big thing that has come through from overseas, that I've been told that businesses really do call out for it, because it gives them more certainty about what they can and can't do, and also gives those cybersecurity safeguards. Is that something that you're also looking at?
Big time. We've put a lot of support the last 2 years into the private sector, making them much more literate and aware of the cybersecurity risks, and they are they're expanded essentially under an AI model as well. But we've needed New Zealand firms to understand, to take cybersecurity much more seriously. Again, in a private sector sense, we've been well behind the private sector internationally that I used to work in my former life. And so a lot of New Zealand firms, though, are getting it now. They are starting to understand that you need to make investments in making sure your systems are well protected, that you have good backups, that you actually have cybersecurity, you put red teams on them to attack your own systems, so you know where the vulnerabilities actually are. So that literacy's got better, and we've been coordinating more of that through the Cybersecurity Centre, the National Cybersecurity Centre, and giving more support into businesses that can do that. But it's also incumbent upon every board and CEO to think about their own business, whether it's small, medium or large, as to how they're managing data, where their cybersecurity risks actually sit, as well as actually learning how they can use AI to help them do that. On the regulatory front, you're right. If you think about the US at the moment, every US state is going off and creating its own regulatory framework, which makes it very difficult to operate businesses within that environment. And so we need to work in a very multilateral way with the Brits, with the Australians, the Singaporeans, the Danes, the Irish, others that actually can build out the regulatory frameworks that we need collectively, because this is a global technology. We need to make sure we've got a global regulatory framework in place to protect us.
This time next year, in terms of leadership in AI, do you want to have any carve-outs for, I know we've got the digitalisation of government minister, but do you want someone in charge of AI across the country, because it's going to be affecting schools, it's going to be affecting everyday people, and also in terms of the public service side of things, are you wanting to strengthen the...
We are going to step change it big time. I'm talking about a radical transformation of the digital agency within government. We cannot do it incrementally. If anything, we've had a negative attitude towards AI and technology in New Zealand relative to other countries, so we've got to change that. 2, we've got to get the capacity and the capability in place, and that is people and structure as to how we actually are going to accelerate this journey, because it is a massive dislocation, and we're going to be going backwards if we don't actually really make those investments and actually in capability. And we've got smart people. We might need a lot of people from outside the system to come into the system to help us transform government in that way. But no, absolutely. I mean, we need to, this is a massive opportunity for the country, and if we are just being average and we're just being incremental and we're already a bit behind the pace, we're going to get left behind. And this is a massive opportunity for New Zealand to get ahead, really.
So we could see a Minister of AI in New Zealand?
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a lot of structural options, but I actually want the technical expert, essentially the government digital agency head, to be someone with a team that actually, like we see in large corporates around the world, that can really drive change through government in a really empowered way, and are empowered to do so. Because our CEOs of our respective government agencies, even our ministers, aren't as AI literate as they need to be as well. And so being able to upskill everybody is going to be very important. But we don't have time. We're going to keep moving really fast, and so it will be transformational.
Just speaking of time, I know I'm almost there.
No, that's good.
Can I just ask you, because I think people will find this interesting, how do you use AI?
I use it. I've used it a lot for research and just sort of things that I get curious about. It can be cricket scores. It can be all sorts of things. So I tend to use it for research, really. As I was looking at saving rates, for example, of different countries, as I was thinking about this KiwiSaver policy that we've announced, as a national party policy, last weekend, I was actually looking at what are the saving rates of, say, Canada, the US, Australia versus New Zealand. And so, that's where and then what are the compulsion elements around relative, pension and superannuation savings schemes, and existing in those other countries. So that's how I would use it. I think there's a whole huge opportunity, and I just encourage people, start using some of the AI tools. Don't be intimidated by it. Don't be anxious by it. Just start using, start doing.
Do you go between like Claude and ChatGPT, or do you have a favorite
I use
one?
both. Yep. Yeah, I use both. I have a subscription personally that I've signed up for, and I've been, just use it in my personal life, and as I said, in a work sense, just more for the researching side of things.
And you expect your ministers to be starting to adopt it?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting, you go to Singapore and talk to the Prime Minister of Singapore and the Foreign Minister of Singapore. The Foreign Minister of Singapore has his own Git
did
digital.
he show you it?
Yes, he did. And the Prime Minister and I talk, and the Foreign Minister of Singapore and I talk a lot, actually, Vivian, and he has his own, Ministry of Foreign Affairs assistant, as he calls it, and he makes it all publicly available. But he does everything through that assistant and agent. And so you can create lots of different agents, as you know, and if you're interested in certain things or want certain emphases on certain places. So, a place like Singapore, they openly talk about it as Prime Minister and Foreign Minister about how they're personally using it. And granted, they are very switched on and they're very technologically savvy. That's the opportunity for New Zealand. We're never going to be the people that are inventing the large language models, but we do want to be the best in the world at actually the application of AI, so that we can improve people's lives and actually have a better quality of life, but importantly also lift our living standards and offer better service to people. Just because we've always done something in a way doesn't mean that's not going to be the way of how we should be doing it going forward. You know, when I just look at the amount of paperwork we have, when I look at the amount of bureaucracy we have, there are so much better ways of doing things in a much more efficient, more effective way that people then are freed up to do other things with their time. That's exactly what we should be focused on.